A while back I posted a video about the Neptune cycle going back from the pre-USA foundation in 1776 all the way to present time, without providing much explanation other than to show the key time points in the Neptunian orbit so that you can see it at the transit opposition to itself, approximately coinciding with the American Civil War of the 1860s, but then, as it returned to its original position, was when the US was compelled to fight in the Second World War. And now, when we can see that the present-day transit of Neptune is in the same degrees as during those turbulent 1850s when the country was deeply divided, and then in 1861 when the shooting started. When the country was formed in 1776, the government and the populace necessarily acted in unison toward achieving the goal of liberation from British tyranny, and the goal was achieved. Similarly, in the late 1930s and into the early 1940s, the US entered the World War II fray after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, and aside from heavy retaliation against the Japanese Empire, the fight was also taken to Europe in order to defeat the Nazis. All of this is with Neptune at its original USA birth position, which once again demonstrates a unified cause, the American people working together to achieve a result. In contrast, during the Civil War period, Neptune was opposing itself, and this correlated with internal conflict, which eventually led to fighting among ourselves. Well, folks, at least on Neptune's account, we're back there again, and if you assess what is happening today, the reason for the conflict is not terribly dissimilar from what it was in the middle of the 19th century. Back then, the southern states were adamant about continuing to enslave African Americans, while the northern states, led by Abraham Lincoln's leadership and initiative, were likewise determined to end the odious practice. In other words, we had ourselves what amounted to a huge racial problem. So what's going on in our present day? Seems to me that the root cause for our current turbulence is once again racial conflict. Even though the Trumpers are pretending that their anger, their rebellion, and their persistent non-compliance with common sense is about preserving their freedom and preventing the United States from becoming a communist country, it's pretty obvious to anyone with half a brain that what is really happening is the white majority, especially as represented by the white, uneducated male majority, together with all the white, likewise uneducated females that are tagging along for the ride, these people are upset that their, up to this point, dominant social status is slowly but surely diminishing as a result of the rise in numbers and an influence of people of color, immigrants, and let's not forget women writ large as well, because while there are millions of women that are perplexingly drawn to Trump's racist, misogynist message, there are many millions more that are fiercely against it. So as a gender, they become part of the resistance against the disaffected white majority that is currently so against what they think is happening to them that they are quite willing to end our democratic system and turn it into some kind of plutocracy or oligarchy or even an outright dictatorship. So basically, we're in a period when two sides are in such profound disagreement about what the country should be and where it should go that no compromise seems possible. One side is adamant about keeping our democracy, which necessarily means everyone gets to vote and every vote is equal, and the other side responds that is not going to work for them because the voters they do not respect will ensure they will not be able to remain the dominant social force. So now, if we look at where Neptune is currently transiting and is due to transit for the next 6 to 7 years, we notice it is exactly as it was in the late 1850s and then during the actual Civil War itself. To be honest, given the way the Republican Party has been infected with the Orange Menace's mendacious malevolence, it already feels like we're in a civil war. But remember that in the end, no planet better correlates with democracy itself than Neptune, and it is no accident to see it placed at the US zenith and thereby strongly representative of what is now one of the world's longest democracies. So yes, we're in a conflict, and the conflict is eerily similar to the one 160 years ago, but the forces of actual democracy won that battle, not those that sought to play from the deceptive, corrupt side of Neptune. And the same thing is happening today, and I believe we are going to have the same outcome. Once again, we are going to win and they are going to lose. But unfortunately, it will not be without a fight.